morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a little bit of a look at a new Claydol. Now, this is kind of interesting. Claydol is one of the more infamous Pokemon we've had in the history of the game. We, of course, had the Claydol from Great Encounters, which will go down as one of the very best cards we've ever seen. This isn't that. And there was Claydol EX, which was at the centre of a rather fun hoax where a lot of good players tried to make it seem, or some at least, like it was this big secret deck for US Nationals. I did make a video all about that. I will try and remember to pop a link in the description. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a rather different Claydol, and one that could be kind of good. I guess we'll have a look. Translation from the lovely Antoine Boulet, as you should probably know by now. And what we've got is 120 HP, which is about standard for a stage 1, still lower than we'd like. There are too many Pokemon that naturally do 120 damage. We've got a retreat cost of 2, which means that Air Balloon will give free retreat, so that's not terrible, because this may well be a Pokemon you want in the active and then out of the active. We've got a resistance to fighting, and with all those things like Eternatus and Pikarom running around at the moment, that is a nice resistance to have. And we have got ourselves a weakness to darkness, which, I mean, Eternatus won't be struggling to KO you, but it's things like Spiritomb that are played along with it that are going to have a very easy time taking you out, which is a little bit sad. Darkness is not a great weakness to have. But you are a Psychic type, which means you're hitting weakness against Mewtwo and Mew, which is rather nice. And it means that you can use Horror Energy. So if your opponent attacks you, they take 2 damage counters. So, you know, ain't too bad. What does it do? Well, the main attraction here is the first attack. Power Share. Attach Psychic Energy from your discard pile to your Pokemon in play until you have as many energy in play as your opponent. So if your opponent has got 10 energy in play, you get to attach 10 Psychic Energy from your discard pile to your Pokemon. Which sounds like fun, right? And on the one hand, now this needs to be on a basic Pokemon to really be amazing. It is single energy, which we really appreciate, but the non-basic Pokemon, the stage 1, makes me a little bit nervous. But this is one of those attacks where even though it's on a stage 1, because it's 1 colorless energy, and I find it funny it's for colorless energy, but it only lets you accelerate Psychic Energy. So it's like, well, I mean, on the one hand, yeah, you can use non-Psychic Energy, but on the other hand, you can only accelerate Psychic Energy, so what are the chances you're not just using Psychic Energy anyway? It's a little bit weird in that regard. But this is one of those attacks where you might not use it for a couple of games in a row. This might be something that just kind of sits in your deck and doesn't get used. And then all of a sudden you're up against a Pikachu and Zekrom deck. And Pikachu and Zekrom has, 8, 9 energy on the field. And not for nothing, they tend to use Mewtwo and Mew, which is weak to you and all your Psychic Pokemon. But now all of a sudden you get to attach, 8, 9 Psychic Energy from your discard to your Pokemon, and then you're set up. And you need no more energy for the rest of the game. Now, it is accelerating from your discard pile, not from your deck, so you do have to have the energy in your discard, but this isn't an early game attack most of the time. It's a mid to late game attack. Honestly, this reminds me very much of Solgaleo and Lunala. Prism Star, more so Lunala because that was Psychic Energy. Lunala for 1 Psychic Energy. For each of your opponent's Pokemon in play, attach a Psychic Energy from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way that you like. Well, that's basically what you're doing here. Now you're matching energy in play rather than number of Pokemon your opponent's got in play, but this is still very, very nice. For energy acceleration decks, things like Frostmoth, things like Rillaboom, things like Pikachu and Zekrom, this is awesome. Even against something like a Zacian V deck. Zacian's going to be using its ability, and they're going to be using Metal Saucer. They might be using Turbo Patch. They might be using ADP. They're going to be getting a whole bunch of energy on the field. So what you're going to want to do is get a whole bunch of energy on the field. And this will match them quite nicely. Now, you return behind them, which worries me a tiny bit. They get 10 energy out, and then the next turn you get 10 energy out. But this could be pretty nice. And I don't know how viable this is going to be, but if ever there was a time to give a shout out to Mew V, now is the time to give a shout out to Mew V. You see, Mew V's got that attack for a minimum 2 psychic energy that, well, it needs you to get lots of energy on the field, doesn't it? What it does is it does 30 damage for each energy attached to both active Pokemon, yours and your opponent's. Yep. So here, if you kind of pile energy onto Mew V, especially bearing in mind that this is going to be useful against a deck that's already got lots of energy attached, maybe this makes Mew V awesome. Or maybe you accelerate a bunch of energy to Mew V and then your opponent uses boss's orders and KOs Mew V and then you've lost all your energy and you're a little bit sad, which unfortunately is a risk that you will have to take here. But you know what? I'm still all in favor of it. You can't bring me down! We need a way to move all the energy around. But you can use this to power up a Mewtwo and Mew, and clearly, and here's the thing, right? It's stage 1 Pokemon, you're probably giving up a prize to use it, but if you're playing a Mewtwo and Mew deck, who cares? Like, ideally in a Mewtwo and Mew deck, you want your opponent to take out 2 Mewtwo and Mew. So your opponent takes out 2 single prize Pokemon and a Mewtwo and Mew, they've taken 5 prizes. They need to take 1 prize to win. But if you've got a Mewtwo and Mew active, they've still got to take that down to win. And because Mewtwo and Mew copies attacks of all EX and GX Pokemon in your discard pile or in play, you often build Mewtwo and Mew to try and get cards into your discard. And this is going to also want to get cards in your discard. So I could see this as a tech in a Mewtwo and Mew deck, and maybe it will work, maybe it won't. But it's one that I really like the idea of. I want this to be a basic Pokemon so badly. Basic Pokemon, single energy, and anytime your opponent's got 8 energy on the field, you just go, boom, energy, 8 energy out, and jobs are good 'em. The fact that it's a stage 1 means you've got to build up to it. I would love it so much more if we had Ditto Prism Star, which can evolve into any stage 1, so you could play a variety of stage 1s, one of which is Claydol. And then from there, you can just roll. But that's not what we've got here. And this is how I end up getting a little bit sad. I am really genuinely worried that the fact this is a stage 1 is going to mean it's never really going to see much play. And that makes me so sad. Because I do think, like, as an attack, this attack is great. I genuinely believe this is a great, not a good attack, a great attack. You can accelerate 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 energy. It's a great attack. But even a great attack needs to be used at the right time, and maybe this isn't going to be able to be used at the right time because it's a stage 1 and your opponent can use boss's orders or you can't get it into play or whatever. Now, when I see Pokemon like this, my first reaction is often, wouldn't it be cool if there was another Claydol? So that we could essentially play both Claydol, and then this could just be a nice little 1-card tech while I'm playing the other Claydol. And the good news is there is another Claydol, and the good news is I actually kind of like it, and the bad news is it's fighting type and uses fighting energy. Now, the fact that it's a fighting type is awesome because it will completely run through things like Eternatus V Max and Pikarom, etc. But the bad news is that you're only accelerating psychic energy with Claydol. Now, the Sword and Shield Claydol, 2 fighting energy, 200, 120 to yourself, which will KO you, but Big Charm. Just attach a Big Charm. And Big Charm gives you an extra 30 HP, which means you will survive, and you're good to go. So I think you'll be alright. And yeah, your opponent can like play a Tool Scrapper, and then if they do, you get KO'd, but yeah, you were getting KO'd anyway. And to be honest, if you're taking out a free prize Pokemon, and then your opponent does KO you, you're still 3 prizes to 1 in that exchange. I am totally okay with it. So I really want to play these 2 Claydol together, but do they really have any synergy? And the answer is maybe. Maybe you play a Mewtwo and Mew deck with mostly Psychic Energy, but you whack in 4 Aurora Energy. And that Aurora Energy can go on to a Claydol to use Explosion to help your Eternatus match up, as an example. Bearing in mind, if you're behind on prizes, that Claydol can use Karate Belt to be a single energy attacker. Although again, if you're using Karate Belt, you're not getting the extra HP from Big Charm. You will be KO'd. But if I can just go Claydol, Karate Belt, Aurora Energy, KO an Eternatus or a Pikarom for free prizes, that seems fine by me. And Guzma and Hala will search out my energy and my tool, and a stadium if you're into that as well. So actually, maybe there is a deck here. Maybe there is a Psychic deck that plays around a little bit with Aurora Energy and Karate Belt and the other Claydol. Maybe this is all far too awkward. I'm definitely going to test it. And I've kind of been challenged by Antoine to test it. Okay, not explicitly, but I'm taking it as a challenge. And maybe it won't work, and that's fine. But any card that can get this much energy on the board has got to be worth taking a look at. In the mid to late game, when you just need another KO or two, but your board setup is not good enough, having the possibility of just spamming energy onto the board at a ridiculous pace, that seems like something you should be able to get excited about. I'm giving it 3 Wassies. I don't think it's a great card because it's a stage 1, but I do think it's a really interesting card, and it's definitely one I want to have a play with. But I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.